Hi and welcome back to the Workbench Apprentice channel. This week's task is to mount the end vise onto the bench. So let's get started. So first thing I need to do is flush the edge of the bench to the two edges, two faces on the frame, and then we'll clamp it together and secure it to the frame. I want that to be flush because of the T-track here, so that we can do big boards or whatever. And this end will have some accessories that can bolt onto it, so it needs to be flush. There we go, so that's looking pretty good. Just go and check the other end. White, so it's looking good, but it's moved down the other end, so we'll go back and do that. Right, so we'll clamp it into position. Okay, so I've got a bracket and I am about to mount that on the bench top. No, there we go. Try it again. There. Realised that I may have made a mistake putting those screws in. The screws might be just long enough to go through the cable that are put in the channel, so I'm going to have to take the top off to check that it's all okay. Okay, let's see if we have drilled through the cable. Right, so that's quite a good size hole. So I am going to have to replace this little section of cable. While the top is off, I'm going to take the opportunity to put these brackets on where I can see what I'm doing and avoid drilling into the cable. Screw around somewhere, there we go. So I have replaced our Holy cable with a nice fresh bit by getting a new extension lead of the same type and just chucking it up and adding it to the wiring loom. What that has allowed me to do is get an extra couple of meters on the lead that plugs into the wall. So pretty happy with that. Good result all round after all of that. Yeah, we carry on with putting the bench top on and planning out the placement of the vise. So as you can see, I've now got the bench upside down because I think that's going to make it easier to screw the top on, which means that this face here is going to be the face that needs to be flush with the edge of the bench, and this face here also needs to be flush with the end of the bench. So this is the vise. Let's have a look. And that is everything that the vise came with. This particular model is a quick release, and that's the quick release mechanism there. But what we need to do is take this piece off so that we can fit it underneath our bench. And we'll do that by undoing these Allen key headed screws, and that'll take the back plate off. Then we can unscrew the main worm drive thing there and see how we go with mounting the plate. Let's try this one. So what I need to do, I think, is mark which end of this, because I think this will fall apart. Yeah, it'll come off. So I'll mark that side to that side. So just that. So we know we've got that one there to that side. I'll just unscrew. And that's the piece. Very simple, just sits there. Now we know that side goes that way. I'm going to mark the back. So this is the back of the brackets. I want it to be sort of in line with the edge, so that's going to want it to be about there somewhere. So holding that against the underside of the bench, let's just check it for level. So it needs to drop down a little bit on this side. On this side here. So I need to, I think, make a spacer, and then we can pack the spacer out so it's nice and level, and then see where we go from there. So I've cut this down on the saw. Let's just line it up like so. That's the back, so we want to make sure what I think I need to do is just put a couple of screws in just to hold it in place while we sort out what's happening underneath the bench. Okay, so what I want to do is line up, put a line in square off this leg so that I don't have to drill through the leg. So that we can line it up with that line, like that. I have not been able to find suitable screws or bolts for mounting the bracket to the underside of the bench, so I'm going to move on and make the jaws. So I found a lovely piece of, I think it's called iron sand. It's an Australian hardwood. It's a very hard wood, and cut it off, measured it, cut it off to length, and that'll make one of the Vise faces. I've got another piece somewhere that I'll cut up and use for the other Vise face. I'm going to cut that on the crosscut sled, and we'll see what's next. Right, so this is cut to length. I think I might want to make this side here. I'll make this side the front. And this side the top. I think the next thing I need to do is to secure this in place while I try and get it level before I can put the face onto it. So I'm going to do that by using some Tech screws, one here, and see if we can get things lined up that way. So just drilling a pilot hole for and stick another one in here. So, lining it up with our mark, which is there. Now if I put this on there, okay, so that tells me that our piece needs to come out a bit more. Right, so having got that in the wrong place, we'll undo it and try again. So I've got a piece of scrap wood on the top. I found my two oldest clamps. So the idea is to clamp that in place there if we can. hope this works. That's what we want. We want it right there. Right, so what we need to do is chop a wee groove out here so that this goes flush against the underneath of the workbench. So we need to know the height, which is 4.5 millimeters. So we need to come down that way, and we need to measure that 21. So we need to come down, and that is going to be 21. So we take that away. Here and there. Easier that way. And we don't want that bit. So let's see, how did we do? We have quite a gap there, which is not such a bad thing. It means that we can plane down this edge until we get a perfect fit. Okay, we are nearly there. So it's a bit high across here, so we'll work on that now. Oh, we're getting better. That's certainly not going to help. I am going to have to plane this down so it is flat. So I'm planing this down here because that is not square. Right, we'll keep going with that until we get a nice flat surface. Let's see. I'm not sure. Maybe if we use some sandpaper. In the right place. I think that's pretty good. Right, so I guess next job is to clamp that into position, go underneath and mark out where all the circles, mark out all the circles so that we know where to drill our holes. Oh, actually before I do that, I need to make sure it's perfectly level. So I think that might be a job for tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Right, so I've turned the bench upside down to make it easier to work on for a little bit. I've got some bolts and screws, so I'm just going to drill some holes for those, and then we will try and level it up, make sure it's nice and flat under the bench with some washers and the screws. So let's drill these holes first. Fresh battery, well, new battery. Right, that's those done. There's a few more inside here, so we'll do those too. And then there's the other two that these ones, they're holding the bracket on, so we'll do those later. So here we are at the underside again. We've got the face of our jaw sitting there, so it's all nice and flush. Almost, yep, there we go, right there and there. So that's flush, so we just need to screw down might be able to shim those out with some washers or something, I think. Right, so I've taken the screws out so that I can get these washers, and here's what we do. So put that through there. Come on, in you go, there we go. And we'll put those on top. Like that. Tighten it all up and see how we go. Right, try again with the level. I think we've gone a bit too much the other way. Change it. We're after something that's pretty close to that. Not sure if you can see it, but that's close enough for me. All of that was to drill these holes, line them up so we can drill these holes out. So let's mark out the holes and drill them out. So what I've done is I've got a couple of different sized dowels and put some tape on the end, put a nail in the center so that when we put these dowels through the holes, they'll mark the center or close to it, which will give us somewhere to place our drill bit to drill the holes in the right place. That's the plan anyway. Let's see if the theory works. So the idea is to push that through, and it just goes in, sits in there, and that'll make a wee mark. Get it through there. This one. Right, now we need to, take this off again so that we can drill our holes. Okay, it's really hard to see on camera, but there's a wee dimple right there. That's for the bigger hole. So I've got a drill bit in, ready to go. So there. This is an old drill bit, so we'll see. I don't think the battery gels up to it. Actually, let's try a bigger battery. Right, let's have another go. We've got a 4 ampere hour battery in here now, so twice what. almost through on the other side. Right. That's one hole. Next one. Okay, last hole, which is right there. One, two, three holes. I think we could put the bracket back and see how it all lines up. Right, hopefully you can see that the holes line up perfectly. Very happy with that. Next thing is to make the one for the faceplate. This time we come through from the other side. So we go through our new holes, come through there, like so, and into there. And the end result of that should be marks on our face piece. So let's see how we got on. So hopefully you can see we've got 1, 2, 3. So we just need to drill those out now. So there we go, holes drilled out. Made the typical mistake of trying to push through the drill bit, so it blew out. But we've got the bit of wood, so we can I'll just glue that back in there. And once that's dry, then we can drill it again from this side. And that'll hopefully tidy that up. Right, here we go. And this side. Here we go. And just clamp that down a bit. Right, leave that for a little bit and come back. So, in order to mount this piece in the right spot, I need to secure it to the back, and the way I'm going to do that is by drilling a hole in here somewhere and a hole in here, so that I can just screw it on, and that'll hold that in place. In the middle there, probably about there somewhere. Just make a dent so that we've got somewhere for the drill bit to go into, and this one will probably have to go about there somewhere. Right, I'll just get some lubrication and we'll start drilling a hole. So just a wee spray. Let's just do it one time. So drill bit in there. Okay, let's get these bars in. We'll see if our holes are suitable. Yep. Put on our faceplate. Put on our middle piece. Oops, too far. So what I want to do is to squash this piece up against here so that we can line it up and then screw it in place from the back to hold its position, like so. That way I know that the rods and the screw mechanism will line up and be in the right place. So I'm going to find some screws and we'll screw it from the back. Seems to be working. Great stuff. Right, next job I believe is to put in these extra bolts. And last one. There we go. I do believe that vise is not going to go anywhere. So what I've done here is plane down and cut some timber to use for the front jaw vise. That's just glued up and we're letting that dry. In the meantime, I've found some dowel to make a handle. So here we go, there is the dowel. I'm just going to make it a bit shorter, but it is a perfect fit. So yes, I have this piece of leftover 40mm dowel, and this is 30mm. Just check. Or 28mm. So I shall chop some off this and use it to make the ends for here, maybe 30mm from that end. Yep, once we do a round over on it. And I may even countersink this so that that slots in. That should be plenty. So we'll trim that up on the saw a couple of times and we'll come back. Okay, so how to find the centre of a dowel? Well, I'm going to try this way. I've got my square with a 45-degree angle on it. So if I hold that like that and I put the square like that. I'm thinking that might help us find. So we go like that. Make sure that's in the right place. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. This is where a vise would be useful. And that does not look centered to me. Let's see. Let's try it again. That's where it's coming to. What's that say? That says 19. That says 22. I think the centre is going to be about there. That's the centre there. So that one's pretty close. I would say centre's there. That's our hole. Clean up the edges, take the sharpness off, and then mark up the actual handle. So need to line up our new chunk of wood with our top here so that we can mark off where the holes for the faceplate are going to go. So I might just make it a bit higher, that way. Smooth it down just a little bit with the plane to make it perfectly flush. Just going to check it for level. That looks pretty much perfect. So with our marking sticks, we'll poke it through from the other side, and that should tell us where our holes are. Using our mark. Right, so here we go. Right, that's enough to hold that in place. Let's take the clamp off. We can slide that out. Beautiful. It hasn't come through on the other side. It is hard to see, but there is, it's touching at the bottom, but not at the top. There's quite the gap up here. So I need to sort that out. Don't know if that's visible on camera. I'm going to keep going until I've got that level. So here we go. I think the problem here is that this piece here curves away, it's not straight, whereas that piece is. So my plan is to put some cork on these faces anyway, so hopefully that will make allowances for that. So I guess putting the cork on will be the next step, so I'll see if I've got any. So I went to the big box store, if you like, to get some tile. They don't have the right tile that I was after. They do have a pack of 9 tiles for $40, but I'd used mostly two tiles, I think, so that works out at $20 a tile, and that's not good. So the short answer is we're going without. So what remains is to put the mechanism back underneath the bench, screw on the back plate, and this job on level out the top so it's flush with the bench, and then this job is done apart from the finishing. Just take this left lip off and we're good to go. That's better. Right, so there we go. That one's tight. That one's tight. That's all we need. I believe we are done. So with that, I believe we are finished putting the vise in. I will put some Danish oil on this, but I've got one more job on the bench to do next week, and then it'll be fully complete. So just remains to say thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time on the Workbench Apprentice.